really found that as I get a little older, I don't preach nearly as long as I used to.
Amen.
You're not supposed to say amen. You're supposed to say amen. But I found that it's imperative to get to the point and assist people in understanding what the Lord is saying to each of us in that given moment in that day. I found that Jesus doesn't need a whole lot of my words, and that he knows exactly what it is that you need for your life. All the additional fluff and preaching is not as necessary as I thought it once was. And I'm okay with that. He came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. If I may just give you a minimal backdrop, Jesus had just come out of the wilderness. Jesus had just encountered 40 days and 40 nights of personal processing in order to give himself completely over to Jesus. He had just encountered an adversary who had dealt with him at his weakest point. And he came out on victory's side. And he went and he allowed angels to minister to him, and he went into ministry. And there was, verse 17, and there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, the recovery of sight to the blind, and to set at liberty them that are bruised." Remember where he just came from. To preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book. And he gave it again to the minister, and he sat down. And all the eyes that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, "This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears." Amen. And all that bear witness wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, "Is this not Joseph's son?" I'm going to end reading there. You go back and you study and you process through this yourself. Each day from that point, Jesus began to do what he was called to do. John 4:34, Jesus declared, "My meat is to do the will of him that sent me and finish the work." Yeah. And it was this was the launching place of him doing the will of the Father and finishing the work. He didn't take for granted his abilities, nor did he shortchange what his purpose was. You remember Samson and how he forgot his purpose and he took for granted what he could do. And when he took for granted what he could do, he didn't realize that the Spirit had lifted from him. Jesus never forgot. Somebody got to hear that today. I don't know why it came out of my mouth, but somebody needs to hear that today. Jesus did not forget. There were abilities in the judges. There were ability in Samson and Judges where that of all the things that he was able to do, but he forgot where the blessings came from. Many of you would remember Oscar Wilde, who wrote The Importance of Being Earnest, a picture of Dorian Gray, Woman of No Importance, some different writings from Oscar Gay in the 1800s. He came to the United States, and they asked him, as they did routinely, if you have anything to declare. Do you have anything to declare? Oscar Wilde's comment or retort there was, only my intelligence. You hear that? Only my intelligence. And years later, as he was sitting in prison, he reflected on the squandered life. And his words then were, I have been a spendthrift of my genius. I have forgotten the action of the common days and make mistakes. The common day makes or unmakes our character. So what happened? He found himself in himself. And these are the things that we have to be most careful of. Jesus stood in the wilderness and he fought all that he could handle. And Jesus found himself at a place to where he was confronted with every temptation in context known to man today. And as he came out victoriously, he understood why. I don't have a lot to say to you guys today. But he understood why he made it through his wilderness. He didn't only understand why he made it, he understood how he made it. Yes. Amen. He didn't only understood how he made it, but he understood who brought him through.
Yes. Hallelujah.
When we grasp these key points and elements in our lives, we will always come back to that place to where God has blessed us and how we gave him honor and glory. It is on those moments where everything seems to make sense.
Yes.
Said in this scripture, if you look through the Levitical passages, chapter 23, verse 16 speaks more specific. Chapter 16 speaks of the time of the atonement, the moment of the atonement, also known as Yom Kippur, and how we understand it. And today is the most solemnly holy day of the Israelite feast. But what is it? There's this process that took place. The atonement ritual began with Aaron and other subsequent high priests of Israel coming into the Holy of Holies. That the moment of that day was underscored by God. With Moses to warn of all the people and bringing the priest bringing at that moment the sins of all of Israel. That holy place. Excuse me. This was not a ceremony that was taken lightly. And the people understood that the atonement for sin was only to be done God's way. But Jesus opened this part of the book. And he said, this day, in your hearing, the scriptures are fulfilled. The atonement. Some break it down and they call it the at-one-ment. When now, all of a sudden, because of what Jesus had done, we are one with God.
Amen.
Did you hear that? Because of all of what he had done, we are one with Jesus.
Amen.
Sin is erased.
Yes.
Healing was purchased.
Hallelujah.
Everything that we are in need of has now been fulfilled.
Amen.
He closed the book. And he said, it's done. Then he looks at each and every one of us and he said, come unto me, all of you that labor and are heavy laden. I got something for you. It's called rest.
Hallelujah.
Whew. I got something for you. It's called deliverance.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
I've got something for you. It's called healing.
yes.
I paid the price.
Amen.
Some of the stories or histrionics of the atonement or how many Israelites would run from that day. Many just didn't think that one day the blood of a bull could wipe away all of their sins. Can I tell you today that many of us still run?
Amen.
We wonder, can this, what Jesus did more than 2,000 years ago, really purchase everything that I need? Yes. Yes. We've religionized it. We've minimized it. We've created areas of irrelevance. But I tell you something. The blood has never lost its power. I want to know today that he still heals the sin-sick soul.
Yes, yes.
He still steps into a hospital room.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I know it's true. He'll still be a lawyer in the courtroom. Hallelujah. He'll begin to turn things around when they should not be turned. Hallelujah. Woo! I know I got witnesses in the room of this truth.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
And
Yes, we will.
and we can minimize it so easily. That's why this song was so important today.
Amen.
Bring it back. Bring it back. I'm done already. Bring it back.
Yeah.
If you don't hear anything else today, you got to understand that Jesus already paid the price for
Yes.
it. They marveled at the words of Christ. They had read the scriptures before, but what he added into it was that he stopped and he said, today is done.
That's right.
Woo! Today is done. And then you know what they said? Isn't this Joseph's boy? You know what we still do? Oh, that's just that church jargon. Oh, you know, Christians say this stuff all the time. I want to tell you something. I don't hail to be a Christian. I hail to be a lover of Jesus.
Amen.
That I have been delivered by Jesus, and I got the proof. Or we're saved. Oh, yes, that's Joseph's son. That's Jesus. That's that religion. Jesus didn't come to start a religion.
Come on now. Tell us.
You hear what I'm saying? Jesus didn't come to start a religion.
Talk about it.
He came to decree and declare.
That's right.
This day,
Yes.
this is fulfilled in your hearing.
Yes.
Now it's up to you to buy it. It's up to you to believe it. It's up to you to walk in it. Or you can say, oh, that's Joseph's boy. Oh, my grandmother went to that church. I don't believe all that stuff. Okay. Go ahead. You do you. And as Oscar Wilde learned as he was sitting in the prison, he said, I've been a spendthrift of my genius. I let my own stuff get in the way of standing in this firm belief. I can tell you, I did it. I did it. Big Mama's religion wasn't enough for me. What? And watching my mom on her knees crying next to her bed,
Come on, talk about it.
that wasn't enough for me.
Talk about it.
And you know, I was too far beyond that.
Come on.
I carried too much intelligentsia. And I had to find, I know that there was another way towards nirvana. Some peace mode, something.
Come on now. Talk about it.
But when it all came down to everything,
Yes.
and I couldn't get myself out of a wet paper bag.
You better talk
I
about
was safe.
Glory.
I called on the name. And all of a sudden, all of my cares and all of my woes.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
I don't care what you think.
Yes, God.
I got proof of a sin. I'm standing here right now.
That's right.
I'm standing here right now. And 30-some years ago, none of y'all would have liked me.
Amen.
Unless we were smoking out of the same pipe.
Talk about it.
Wait a minute. Amen.
I'm for real. But Jesus.
Amen.
Hallelujah. He is
But
saying,
Jesus.
Amen.
He came and talked to me
Yes.
at a cocaine table.
Yes.
Make it to church.
Yes.
I was right there.
Yes.
And all of a sudden he told me,
Yes.
get up and go to the family.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Jesus.
The scripture is fulfilled in your hearing.
Hallelujah.
You can go on and say that's Joseph's boy. You can go on and say that's Christianity. Or you can say, you know what? I think he'll do it for me.
Yes, you will. Hallelujah. Woo, thank you, Lord.
Amen.
Hallelujah, God. We bless you, Lord.
Yes.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
Woo,
Thank you,
Jesus.
Lord.
Hallelujah. Woo, you're worthy, Jesus.
Thank you,
Hallelujah.
You have yourself a nice day.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
I can walk from here
Lord, Lord.
knowing that my Savior
Yes.
has once again delivered
Yes.
me. Today, I've been born again.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
And you go ahead on and have yourself a wonderful day. And you can fulfill whatever you decide to hear.
Amen.
But as for me and my house,
Yes.
we will.
Hallelujah. Yes.
somebody. Let them know you love them. Let them know God loves them.
Yes,
Give our
yes,
young
yes.
people a chance to finish their class.